All right, good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for Convention Conversations. I'm Anthony Antoine, and I'm joined by Sue Lovell,
Hello.
former city council member here in Houston. Thank you so much for joining me, Sue.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the DNC taking place in Chicago at the United Center. As you know, we have our Lina Florias, who has been live there in Chicago, bringing us some coverage from inside. Yesterday, you saw her on the floor, really getting a feel for the sights and sounds of what folks are saying down there in Chicago. So Lina's going to be joining us here to kick us off as we get an idea of what we are expecting for day 3, but she's also going to talk about some uniquenesses happening at the DNC. So let's send things over to our Lina Florias in Chicago. Lina?
It's been a lot of activity. I mean, the event doesn't even start prime time until 5:30, but already, I mean, you can probably hear all the voices going on around me. You know what? I have a little something to tell you that you probably already know, is that I am not a lawyer. And neither is this one. I'm going to introduce you here to one of the content creators here, Melanie. You are one of the 200 content creators invited for the very first blue carpet for any national convention. So kind of give us the ins and outs, because we're not allowed there. I mean, this is only for creators.
Yeah, so it's been very exciting to be invited. There's a ton of us. We've been obviously doing the group chat, like, what are we all doing here? Do we know? But it's been amazing to be able to go on the floor last night to the creator stage. They have some creator lounges. So it's been amazing to just be fully immersed in this experience.
And this is your first, convention. Yes. So tell me what it's like from your perspective to walk in the room, because there are so many people, there's so much energy in the room. I mean, what are the big moments to you?
So I will say that it's a little bit nerve-wracking. Like, do people even want us here? Like, how do they feel about us being here? But everyone's been very, very receptive, very open to talking to us, very inviting. So that's been very cool. And so, yeah, just kind of balancing the nerves, the jitters, and trying to, fully just experience this and take advantage.
And there were some really big moments that I noticed in the room. Tell me from your perspective what you thought were the big moments.
For sure, last night, seeing Michelle Obama on the stage giving her speech was incredible. That was amazing to see. Also, being able to see the second gentleman on the stage give his speech was really cool, and seeing him kind of welcome in or be ushered into this potential new phase that he will be going into. So that's been amazing. And then, of course, Mr. 44, the 44th president coming on, Mr. Barack Obama, that was also amazing. So those were, for sure, highlights last night.
So, just to give you a little perspective here, if you're like, why do I know her face? Because your content is, I'm not a lawyer. Yes. And you were quick to point out, you're not a lawyer, but Kamala Harris is.
Absolutely. I'm not a lawyer. Kamala Harris is, and there's a ton of people who actually are lawyers. And so what I try to do is really just kind of break down what's happening in a way that people can understand. And so that's what I'll be doing for the DNC.
That actually sounds like news reporting and what we like to do as well. You know what? Thank you. Stay with me for a little bit while I just kind of talk with Anthony a little bit. So you were talking about what was going to be happening tonight. So we're expecting some big names. We're expecting former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I mean, the heavy hitter when you're talking about the Democrats. And then we're also going to see Pete Buttigieg, whose name was kind of in the background when we were talking about Veep stakes and who was going to be on the ticket with Harris. You know what? Let me ask you again, too. Really big change with the top of the ticket. The energy, tell me what it was like on social media.
I feel like the energy has been insane. It is very reminiscent of 2008 when Barack, but it's even different than that. It feels like just a brand new energy, and everyone feels inspired. You feel like it's just a new wave. So it's reminiscent of 2008, but even better.
Almost like a reincarnation. Absolutely. Almost of 2008 is your take. And then also tonight we are going to see former President Clinton, and then of course the highlight or the keynote speaker, I'll say, is Tim Walz, where he formally accepts the VP nomination here, which is something that happened 2 weeks ago with the roll call and then confirmed last night with the ceremonial roll call. So that's going to be your big headline tonight.
Yeah, Lina, lots of, just watching the convention from home, definitely a lot of energy in that room. When you're speaking to people in the crowd as you're there at the DNC, what are some of the topics, or what are some of the hot button issues that they are really motivated by to really translate the excitement into votes?
You know what? That's what they were trying to do on stage, really focusing, hey, don't forget, we have 75 days left till the election. You've got to keep the momentum, keep the energy, and you have to make it to the ballot box. You can't say, hey, it looks like Democrats have it in the bag, let's just go ahead and sit it out. So on the stage, they were trying to convey that message, but when I was talking to the delegates in the Texas delegation and delegates all around the room, they had kind of a different message where they were saying that this is about hope, this is about joy, this is about respect, and this is about love. Those were the words that kept coming up. So I feel like for the delegates, it was more emotional than it was political. And remember, a lot of people were referring to this campaign, this truncated campaign of just about 3 months here, as a vibes campaign, that it's all about energy, enthusiasm, and about the way you feel. And the one thing that we've noticed, when it comes to the ballot box, it really is motivated by people's emotions as well as their politics and viewpoints.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, the roll call last night, Lina, it is something we have never seen before, and it really cultivated this high intensity, just excitement of the room. Talk about that roll call. And also, even from Texas, we heard from the woman who previously had to go to a different state to get an abortion, who then shared her story. That also a very powerful moment there last night.
That was a moment that a lot of people resonated with. In fact, one of the delegates that I met with from Texas, a woman, one of the 273 Democratic delegates, she specifically said Texas women are done with the current political viewpoint when it comes to health care and reproductive rights, and that it's not just a women's issue. But I'll tell you, during the roll call, it's something that Democrats haven't done for nearly a decade because of the pandemic, and then, of course, the roll call 2 weeks ago was virtual. So that actually is something that a lot of people consider to be the exciting part of any convention, no matter the party. It's where they go state by state and they declare, hey, we have this many delegates and we cast them for this candidate. So getting 99% of the vote for the Harris-Walz ticket is a pretty big deal. We haven't seen percentage points like that since Reagan back in the 1980s, just to give you a little bit of perspective there. But the big highlight, and Melanie, I'm going to ask you, of the roll call had to be, let me just throw it out there, Lil Jon for Georgia.
Absolutely. That was so much fun, so unexpected, and it was so perfect. So perfect for Georgia.
And it really got the energy level, moving. It was a little bit like, and you notice it was out of alphabetical order. It started with Delaware. That's because it's Biden's home state. And then it closed with Minnesota and California because of Walz and because of Harris. So they were kind of symbolically, which maybe, you didn't pick up on, but it was about passing the baton from the top of the ticket.
I love that. I was wondering why we did Delaware and then Alabama, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, almost by design, you would think, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of symbolism here to kind of recognize the passing of the baton.
All right, our Lina Florias live for us in Chicago at the DNC. Lina, thank you so much, and also bringing us that unique insight into that content creator and some new ways the DNC is looking to connect with that younger demographic. Thank you so much, Lina. We really appreciate you. We'll be looking forward to your reports here tonight at 5 and 6. All right, as we bring things back into the studio, Sue, let's just talk about what Lina was discussing there first and foremost.
First, did you ask her how the food was?
Oh, no,
Having been to a convention in Chicago, the food's exceptionally good. Yes,
so you've been to multiple DNC.
I've been to 6 DNC conventions, yes.
All right, so if you're watching...
I don't look that old, but...
So you're watching the DNC last night,
yes.
Or if someone at home has never been to a convention, Republican convention or Democratic convention, what is it like to just be in the room like that with so many like-minded people?
Well, it's so loud. You can't imagine how loud it is. And the process by which you get in the room, you have to go in very early. You have to sit in the same seat. You have a seat you choose, and every day you sit there. In case they have to go to a vote, they have to know who's there and who isn't.
Right.
And so you better be sitting with people that you like a lot, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. And then it's just crazy because it's loud. And there's people from other states, and you really get a feel about what America's really about, because it's so diverse, so different, from state to state, and it's really an incredible it's an incredible experience. When they do the roll call, this roll call was different because Kamala already had the delegates, so it wasn't contested.
Right.
So there was no kind of intrigue, mystery to it.
Right.
But what was interesting when Texas came to Texas was that people didn't know the woman that introduced the young woman that told her story was Governor Ann Richards' daughter, Cecile Richards, who used to be the CEO and president of Planned Parenthood, who has now stepped down and not doing that anymore. So for me, that was really significant to see Cecile there. And then remember back to her mother when she chaired the 1992 convention when Bill Clinton was nominated.
Wow. Yeah. And we're also going to hear from Bill Clinton here tonight at the convention.
We are the big dog.
And you know his wife Hillary. What do you think of Hillary's speech there on night one?
I thought Hillary did a good job. I think all the people that have given the big speeches they call have been very good. I thought the Obamas just were incredible last night. And President Obama was right. He is stupid to follow
his wife.
Talking after his wife. That was like, you know. And I thought that that Doug Emhoff was Kamala's husband, I guess, who will be the first gentleman.
Right. Yeah, if in fact she wins.
I thought he was really good and authentic. And what was to me different from that is we have had a woman run for president who introduced her husband. But he used to be the president of the United States.
Right.
People knew him.
Right.
This was Doug's first kind of introduction to people to know him, and I thought he was authentic, and I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, I think even for me personally too, just like watching it, just kind of getting a better insight into their marriage and how they got together, and then too his son's introduction of him also very well done in that video. Yeah. And then I also learned after the convention that the video was produced by his ex-wife even. And, that was a theme for them in that piece was this is a blended family, which is reflective of so many Americans out there.
In America. So many blended families in so many different ways.
Exactly. Yes, next, let's talk about Michelle Obama. Another one of because, I mean, it's hard to talk about last night from the DNC and not just talk about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama's speeches, arguably some of the best orators of our generation, our lifetime.
And she gave a different kind of speech. Before she talked about when they go low, we go high.
Right.
In this speech, she just took it right to why this is important. When she talked about this is about decency, this is about being kind to people, this is about being respectful. This isn't about making fun of other people. There's other things that are very important in this election. And then how she personalized that by saying, Trump tried to make people afraid of us, to demonize us. I mean, here we are people that, went to school, educated, worked our way up. And so we win, we're president, first lady. Now you're trying to demonize us because of the color of our skin. I thought she was at her best because she was really speaking truth to power.
Yeah. How do you think that message is going to resonate with independents? Because we know this is going to be a very tight race. We're going to be close here on the margins. And do you think that was a speech that would bring people in who may not identify themselves as Democrats with a speech like that last night?
I kind of took her speech was to the House, to the Democrats. Like, look, just because the party doesn't call you, you got to get involved. I mean, you got to do
something, right? That was the thing.
I thought she was really speaking to the delegates about we can't have any little hurt feelings this time. Right. The stakes are too high. You have to get up and go no matter what. I thought the President Obama's speech was more he made the case, being a former president, to the independents and Republicans who did vote for him. Hey, it's okay to come over. There, it'll be okay. It was okay when you came over and voted for me, and it'll be okay to come over here. And I thought he did a good job of making his case.
And also last night, part of the theme too was also hearing from, I believe, Stephanie Grisham, who was worked under the first lady at the time, Melania Trump, and she shared a text message, that's saying during January 6th, like, do you want me to send out, basically trying to calm the crowd on January 6th. And she showed the text message where Melania responded by saying no. You also heard from other Republicans, you know what I mean, in Arizona, you know what I mean, saying like, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm here for democracy. Do you think that was an effective way to try to communicate that message?
Yeah, I do. I do. And again, people vote for different reasons. It really may be they're just tired of somebody that acts like a bully at times, that is very narcissistic, self-centered, and others are looking for, well, how did he handle the economy? Put everything else aside. Was I better off? Was the economy better off? And they're looking for that. So I thought that they kind of hit on all those points between the both of them speaking that, yes, everything can be okay if you come across and you vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Tonight, Tim Walz, all eyes on him for a very large portion of the country. He was someone they did not know about. Being the governor of Minnesota, he wasn't necessarily on the national stage at that time. So what do you think he needs to communicate to be effective here tonight? Or what are some of the things you may be listening for specifically?
I thought President Obama set him up perfectly last night when he said, "What with the flannel shirts, man?" You know, like there wasn't some consultant handing you and saying, "Wear this," and then they turned to his wife and she's going, "Oh my
she's
God,
like
it's
clapping,
so true."
like, yes.
I thought he set him up for here's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, what you see is what you get. Is this guy? He's real. He's he's authentic. He's done a lot of different things. He's been a coach. He served in the military. You know, he's just a good kind of average Joe kind of guy that's been out doing good things for other people.
And, you know, he also said to former President Barack Obama, he says, this is the type of person that should be in politics. You know, a lot of the times when you think of politicians, usually it's someone who lawyers, lots of lawyers are, you know, politicians and people who may be coming from some, in most cases, affluent backgrounds. But this is a guy served our country, was in the military, or the Coast Guard rather, also worked as a teacher and as a coach. And now here he is here today running to be vice president.
And he's a very good governor. He's very popular in his state.
Yeah.
You know, I know that they were happy that he was chosen, but they're also going to be sad that he's leaving because he has been a good governor.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of good things for the people of Minnesota. So, yeah, you don't have to actually to be in politics and do good works. You don't have to have a degree. What you have to have is some common sense, the ability to execute your ideas, listen to other people's ideas, and to have people around you that can get those ideas then carried out. And that doesn't take a college degree to do so, to be a good public servant. You don't have to. I mean, I'm not saying don't go to college and you get your degree, but not everybody does, and that should not stop you from looking at being a public servant and helping other people.
Yeah. And, you know, it's very clear. There's a new sense of pride or energy associated with the Democratic Party right now since President Joe Biden stepped aside.
Yeah. No, you could feel it immediately. It was just a sense of, God, he's a really good guy, but we just don't think he's going to get there. I mean, and just like Joe Biden, good guy. Remember Joe Biden, you know, his wife and daughter were killed in a car accident. And what did he do? He commuted every day between Washington and Delaware. So he could be at home with his kids. That's the kind of guy he is. I mean, you know, as President Obama said, I chose him because he's a really good guy. Well, once again, he demonstrated that his sense of duty to the nation is more important than his sense of duty to himself. And I think it was a very difficult decision, but it was the right decision.
Yeah. What do you think of his speech? You know, a lot of folks were kind of upset that the day one ran so late into the night or the early morning hours the next day. You know, that many folks maybe even fallen asleep, you know, when the president, Joe Biden, was speaking at the time. What did you think of his speech? And, you know, how do you think he will be remembered from a historical standpoint once we move 10, 20 years from now? How do you think history will look back on Joe Biden's presidency?
Well, first, you know, his daughter introduced him, and that was a, you know, very emotional moment. I mean, you could really see the Joe Biden and how much he loves his children, and that's authentic. Yeah. And, you know, and it is his swan song. It's his, maybe one of the last speeches he'll make publicly. Certainly, there may be more as president, but this was in front of his party, the party he's belonged to and worked so hard for. So, you know, the fact that it was really late. Look, conventions run late. They run late, and you usually have the spotlight people at the end. Most of them, so people tune in and stay. Otherwise, they're gonna say, "Oh, that speech is over with. The Obama spoke, and I'm leaving." So, you know, look, hey, the guy, he was kind of owed that moment, and it was his to take. And truthfully, I was like, as long as you want to talk for what you did, what you sacrificed, and step down, talk all you want.
Yeah. How do you think history will reflect back on him just doing that? Because, you know, a lot of people may not have chosen to do that or kind of step aside in that way. Do you think that'll be looked back as a very commendable move here for the Democratic Party?
I think it'll be looked at as a courageous act, truthfully. You know, very difficult, but it was courageous, and it was the right thing to do. And that's just kind of what he's demonstrated all through his, you know, political life and his family life. He's done the right thing. So I think history will say many kind things about Joe Biden.
Yeah. And, you know, when we talk about this enthusiasm right now and everything surrounding the Democratic Party, you can't just win an election off vibes.
No.
And vibes and energy aren't going to get you votes. So how do you translate that? You mentioned earlier you've been to multiple conventions. How do they capitalize on this moment? Because it is a race to the finish line, 70-something plus days left. How do they capitalize on this to hopefully win the election?
So, yeah, I mean, the election brings you a lot of energy, and absolutely this one. And this is historical. I mean, to be at this election in this historic moment. I mean, I was when Obama was nominated. It was a very important historical moment in our nation. But being there at the convention, it's fun. It's really tiring because you go. What I hope's happening is while all those delegates are there back home, the people in the party and the workers are putting together a game plan that is about going and knocking door to door and asking people for votes. You know, how are we going to get people to the polls? All that needs to still be taking on here. And usually the people at the conventions aren't those people.
Right, exactly.
You know, because to be a delegate here, you have to be elected by people in the party. So the people there, they'll come back with enthusiasm, but hopefully the people here on the ground and everywhere else are putting together the game plan to make sure in a very short time they get people to the polls to vote.
In this climate that we're in, inflation is still an issue, you know.
Well, it's going down.
It is
going down.
So, but I think even in that, right, when you hear inflation is going down, what it is and what it feels like may be two different things. So for the average person at home, you know, me saying to someone else inflation is going down, yeah, but the price of eggs is still high. Right. You know, so what are some of the ways you think the Democratic Party or Vice President Harris and Tim Walz can kind of like share the message of how they're going to overcome these hurdles, whether it's inflation, whether it's the border here in Texas, obviously another big issue that we pay very close attention to.
We do. You know, and the border crossings are down also. I mean, inflation's down. Right now, everything's sort of calming. But, you know, let's talk about inflation's down, but you go to the grocery store, it's still high. Why is that? Because those grocery store operators are still gouging you. They're still at COVID prices, and something should be done to tell them to, you know, let's come back down to reality. COVID's over with, and not stay. Because, you know, a lot of times people in business, they put their prices up, and then they take advantage of that to keep them there when they really should come down because we're not in that situation anymore. And you've heard Vice President Harris talk about going after people that gouge and people that are taking advantage of people. And so I hope she continues to talk about that, about people, why your groceries are more expensive, why some things are. It really means those people are really gouging you, and someone should take them to task. Yeah.
And I actually went to Milwaukee and covered the RNC.
You did.
So I've been in the Super Bowl, if you will, for any, you know, respective party, the DNC, the Republican Party. It's a Super Bowl in there. So I've certainly been around the environment, just the excitement of a convention. But one of the things at the RNC, we heard from Governor Greg Abbott. We also heard from Ted Cruz, and they invoke the name of Jocelyn Nungaray. She's the 12-year-old girl we've been covering, where she was tragically killed by two men who came across the border. Two undocumented migrants. And I say that because the border is an issue. It's a motivating issue for a lot of Republican voters. Yeah. How do you think that fares with independents, and what do you think would be her plan, or even how do we move forward, the Democratic Party move forward when attacking that issue?
Yeah, it's a very difficult issue. It's a complicated issue, actually, because you have a lot of people coming across. A lot of those people coming across, they're coming in and they're going to work. I mean, they're not. We don't find a lot of people, you know, they go to work. We've seen that before when there was a large immigration from Mexico. They're going to work. how we stop at the border is very difficult. And again, there was an agreement that was reached, but Trump said, no, don't do that because I want this issue to campaign on. And they've still kept that as a talking point rather than getting very serious about it. So I hope that President Harris will look at it very seriously and come up with a better way that we can bring people across the border and be able to vet them. And then why are we holding them at the border and then letting them go with ankle monitors? I mean, that's who's making those decisions, you know, to do. And again, we have a lot of young girls that are being killed here by people that are not immigrants but are U.S. citizens, and they are just as important.
Sue, we can talk about this all day. Such a great conversation. We'll be back here tomorrow for more of our convention conversations, bringing you live coverage from the DNC in Chicago. But for right now, I'm Anthony Antoine. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a great day.